Good morning. Welcome to the Pathways Podcast. We have a very special episode today, kind of out of the norm.
Thanksgiving episode.
That's right.
Yeah.
Happy
Yeah.
Thanksgiving.
The crew is back together.
That's right.
We are.
The Three Musketeers. What? Yeah. Whatever.
That works.
Well, over 24 hours from now, we'll be feasting.
Yeah.
Lots of food.
Well, let's
And then
talk
about 28 hours from now, napping.
yeah.
the food coma.
Speaking of naps, you've already you woke up super early this
I woke
morning.
up
It sounded
early
like.
this morning, yeah. And
You've already had a nap for the day?
I had a little early morning nap
Yeah.
after I woke up. I did.
Right on. Let's talk about Thanksgiving. What do you guys got planned for Turkey Day?
We are going to Todd's parents for Thanksgiving and then my mom's house on Saturday.
Oh,
So,
right on.
Yep.
Hitting both places.
Yeah.
That's good.
We'll be good.
We're having Jake and Maya and Holland are coming over to our house, and my mom is going to come over, and just small group because Logan and Molly are traveling to her folks, and Lex and Matt are going to his mom's. So it'll
Right on.
be kind of a small gathering, but
Yeah. What for
So what's
Christmas?
for
will you
dinner?
guys hold on? For Christmas,
never
will you
mind.
guys all get together? Okay.
yeah.
So it'd have the whole family in
usually,
your house.
usually, yeah. Thanksgiving is kind of
Hit or miss.
hit or miss,
Yeah. Right on. Sorry. Go ahead, Marcy.
What's for dinner? Do you have a turducken this year?
No turducken.
No turducken.
Gonna go with just a turkey.
Just a turkey. A little more
Smoked,
traditional.
deep fried?
Well, it's smoked. It's on my smoker,
Yeah.
my wood pellet grill.
Yeah.
So
Set it and
it's
forget it.
basically baked, but it's smoked
Yeah.
too.
That's what we're doing. Well, actually, my brother-in-law is using my smoker, so coming back today from Colorado.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's good.
Good deal.
Yeah, I have I'll get up early tomorrow and start the grill and get the turkey ready to go. I have a system for my turkey.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't leave it on the table. The dogs might get it. Like Christmas Story.
I make a mixture of butter and herbs,
Herbs
and then I
spices.
rub it under the skin. You
Got to get all that flavor in there.
you put your hand under there and you separate the skin from the meat, and then you shove all that with butter. And then I put bacon over the top of my turkey.
Butter
Get
and
that bacon grease dripping
You just
into it.
can't go wrong.
Oh,
Right on.
so good.
Right on. What are you guys having?
So at Todd's parents, it'll be traditional Thanksgiving, turkey, stuffing, all the things. And then at my mom's, we're doing something different this year. We're going to do 2 red lasagnas and a chicken lasagna. So
like an
gonna do-
Italian Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
always love that everybody
Gonna do
loves
something a little
Raven
bit
where she
different.
ate fish.
Yeah, I don't think I would like
She had
fish.
fish for Thanksgiving.
Well, good deal. We have a Thanksgiving Eve service
We
Yeah.
do.
tonight.
Tonight.
Starts at 7.
Yep.
Gonna be a little different format this year.
It's going to be a little more kind of podcast-ish.
Yeah.
Aaron's
Yeah.
going to interview some people.
Yeah, we've got an amazing lineup
Yeah.
of people, 5 different people on stage.
Yeah, as we were kind of planning for the service, we all know we should be thankful, right? So, but I think it's kind of, we're going to hear from people that are kind of in a season of transition as far as leadership goes, and just what that's been like, what the process has been like for them, and how they feel about it, and just the way how God's been leading them, and the idea would be to, as you hear this, you can apply it to yourself in various ways, but we're also rejoicing because God's
Absolutely.
constantly doing things, and I think it's easy if you're kind of in a busy season, or you're more kind of find yourself sitting on the sidelines to not see where God is moving. So it's cool to just talk about that and see that, and then we rejoice because God is faithful, and it's just neat to be a part of. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These are all people who've stepped out of their comfort zones too and
sure.
have felt God moving and working in their life and that tug in a direction and have stepped out of their comfort zone, which I think when we have that invitation to step out of our comfort zone, sometimes it's like, oh, it's a whole lot easier to stay here. And I don't know if I want to do that because it's uncomfortable. And so it's just awesome to see and to kind of wrap that into a Thanksgiving service of just how thankful we are of how God is moving and working in our lives. But then also, I mean, I feel like we get to be thankful and rejoice for how they're responding, like,
Yeah.
and just how we can see God moving and working through them and the kingdom advancing in that way. So
you're pretty
it's gonna
good
be
at
great
pushing
service.
people out of their comfort
I
zone.
love to push people out of their
what does that
comfort zone.
process look like for you though? Like, I mean, when you shoulder tap someone to do something, like you spend time in prayer and just God
Yeah.
lifts someone to you, and then you say,
Yeah.
I'm going to throw this out to him.
So usually what happens is that as staff, we've kind of been brainstorming about something that is coming up, whether it's a ministry or just an opportunity or a need within a ministry. And then we pray about and brainstorm who might be a good fit for that.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you're praying about it, but then you're also listening and sensitive to the spirit of what is God doing in someone's life and how's he moving and how's he working and how has he gifted someone. And even if sometimes I think that we can see something in someone before they see it in themselves. And
see or
sometimes-
acknowledge it. Right?
Yes, yeah. And sometimes I think that it's that stretch of asking, like, what would you think about this? Like, we have an opportunity for you to prayerfully consider, right? And so sometimes I think that people wouldn't, if you throw out something to a whole group and say, is anyone interested in this? Like, that is one way to put things out to people. And sometimes people bubble up through that who I never would have just automatically thought of. And that's great. Like, that's wonderful. But then also there's times that I think when you pray about something and, you think about how is God moving and working in somebody's life, and you shoulder tap and you ask them, and it's like, oh, someone saw this in me. And that feels like a stretch and that's way out of my comfort zone, but maybe I'll give it a try. And it's just awesome to see how God works through that. So
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I think also to add to what she's saying, and the key to me is that you're not asking them to do
Right.
what you want them to do.
no,
You're really trying to figure out what is God calling them to do,
Right.
and trying to encourage them to do that, because it just isn't going to work.
right.
If you're trying to push people into places that you want them to be, it's not going to work.
No,
Right.
Because
not at all.
they're just not going to get blessed by it. They're going to get burned out more immediately. And so you're really trying to follow the Spirit, and kind of continuation of what we talked about on Sunday about surrender is that, and I think that often the win-win is you're praying, you kind of see it in somebody, and then they kind of come to you one day and say, hey, I feel like God's doing something. And and then, which I don't know, at least 3/4 of the time, that's kind of how it goes.
It feels like affirmation.
Yeah, and you're
that
sitting
you've
there
been
across the
thinking this
desk
and they're
going,
thinking it.
It's about time you came in here.
Right.
We've seen it for a while, and then you encourage them and affirm them. And
Yeah, for sure.
so
Yeah, no, it's never meant as a manipulative type of thing or anything. I mean, it's definitely, when I say it's an opportunity to prayerfully consider, that's really how I feel about it is you need to pray about this, and maybe it's not. I mean, maybe there's things going on in your life and it's just not the right timing or not a good
Right.
fit, and God's going to show that to you. And so
sometimes there's
That's
a thing.
okay.
There's a thing also called active waiting, where you might put somebody in a place that is in the trajectory
right.
of where they're going. So it's like, okay, you could either sit on the you could sit on the shelf until the ultimate opportunity presents itself, or you can be moving in that direction, actively waiting, equipping, building up competency, all those things. So there's a lot. There's a lot to it. If somebody feels like ultimately they're being called over here and they're now here, there's a lot in the middle that they could be moving into as they ultimately continue to where it is that God has for them. But it's like that's kind of what happened with me. So I wouldn't say that I knew I was going into ministry, but I started doing pulpit supply. I started preaching in other churches. I started doing all this stuff. And I started taking classes and doing all the things I was doing. And I think that for a lot of people, they get impatient,
Yeah.
and it's kind of sad.
and then that makes them frustrated.
It makes them
that,
frustrated.
Well, I see
but-
this coming, and so then
Yeah.
it can be frustrating.
So it's a process. It's certainly not a. It's not a. We don't get it perfect, but it's.
I think you've got, the impatience on one side, and then on the opposite side of the spectrum, you have an unwillingness to get uncomfortable, right? People don't like change. People don't like being pushed out of their comfort zone. Life's pretty good. And so it's just they're closed off to this idea of like God's calling them to something more and something deeper. And I just say, don't resist. Like, see what the Holy Spirit wants to do, and then start praying. What does steps of obedience look like for this work that the Holy Spirit's doing in my heart? So
Yeah,
anyway.
absolutely.
It's and there's an intensity in it that you can't. I'm thinking of a word that I can't really use because it's more of a you can't what it
Yeah.
right. You've got there's a point where you just got to go. You got to jump in and it's all in because you can't fake it.
Got to surrender to the process, right? That's right.
You're just not going to do anybody any good if you're not. It's going to require kind of being a sellout on your part, complete surrender. You're right.
Yeah.
It's going to require that, and if you're not willing to give that, then you're never going to be totally effective in doing it. So.
Yeah. I think too, just in this conversation, I think that this is one of the things that actually has kind of set the way apart. Like, it's been something, leadership development and encouraging people out of their comfort zone has been something that has been foundational since the beginning. And I think that now we see the fruits of that in a whole lot of different ways. I mean, how many churches have an entire staff that everybody on staff has bubbled up from within the congregation like that, right?
No,
like
you're
that
right.
is very much not a normal thing for a church culture, I guess.
Right.
And so I just think it's awesome. Like, I think that it's acknowledging that the gifts are right there within the church body, and people are willing to embrace that process and to just take that next faithful step and see where it goes and how God uses that and develops that. And the panel tonight is also fruit from that. And so it's just awesome. Like,
Yeah,
it's
we're
just
gonna
awesome to see how God's moving and working.
Hear their stories and see how God worked in their hearts and brought them to these places of serving and transitioning them in and out of ministry. And so, anyway, it'll be good.
I
Be
think
good
so.
service.
Yeah.
So,
I'm looking forward to it.
yeah, me too.
Got some good questions lined up, Aaron?
No,
No. Okay.
the Holy Spirit will lead.
Holy Spirit will lead. just
terrible question.
Just following the Spirit's leading.
Yeah.
So the other thing is I like evening services.
Yeah.
And I always like Thanksgiving Eve because it's always felt like kind of a family service.
Yeah, it does.
It's not. I mean, visitors are welcome, obviously, and people are welcome to bring their own families of origin and all that stuff, their immediate families. But it's definitely the way crowd when you have a special service, like a holiday service like that. So it'll be fun.
Yeah.
So
Right on.
love the way family.
Come join us.
That's right. 7
Come
o'clock.
be a part of the family tonight.
Yeah.
7 o'clock.
Right on. And actually, a youth group, right? They're doing a.
We're feeding the youth.
Yeah, at
So the
6.
7th and 8th graders up through high school, we're feeding them. Pizza comes at 6 o'clock. So, yes, feed them a little after 6 o'clock.
Right,
And so we're going to feed the youth, and then they can head on over and join the service. So,
Right on.
Yeah.
It'll be good.
It will.
It's always fun
Looking
having them
forward
in
to it.
there and watching them worship.
Yeah, for sure. It's good.
Anyway, so can we transition into the building
Sure.
campaign a little bit?
Yeah.
So
We'll be sharing tonight
we'll be sharing
the
details.
the fruit of the pledge drive.
Yeah.
So people probably wonder, why don't you just say it now? I'm not going to say it now. I'm going to say it tonight.
Stay tuned.
And then we will send it out via email later.
Okay.
So we're still in the process of informing our leadership. So I've got this thing that there's an order, and I want to make sure that our leadership is kind of in the loop, and then we will publicly announce it tonight, and then we will send it out via communication, email announcement.
On Friday?
And the days of the
think.
yeah,
or so.
sometime when whenever our
so.
communications director, when it fits in her schedule, it is a holiday. And she's
It is.
entitled
It
to
won't be Thursday.
she's entitled to have some family time and all that stuff. So, but we'll get it out. We'll get it out to everybody sometime before Sunday.
Right on.
So check your email if you're not going to be there tonight.
Or come and get the information firsthand.
Yeah, well,
Right?
that's right. Well, I mean, if you can come, and
Yeah.
and then you'll know, and then you can be you could shout it from the mountaintops if you want to once you know. But,
Sounds good. Well, has there been anything about the process that surprised you or anything that I don't know?
I wish I could say yes, but not really.
Yeah.
Any building campaign is always, so even if it wasn't a church thing, right? Campaign, pledge drives, all of these things. I've that's been a part of my life. And I've been in and I always, I remember growing up, my dad would spearhead like fundraisers for the hospital and all these things. And again, I always go back to lessons that my father taught me. And he always said, anytime you do a pledge drive, you are going to be in awe of what some people give, and you're going to be discouraged by what others. So some people they're going to give so generously, and you're going to be like, wow.
Yeah.
And other people, you're going to be like, oh, I wonder why they didn't give.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing with this. The generosity is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
There's still meat on the bone, though. There's people that you didn't hear from. I'm not sure why that is. That's between them and God. And I don't know. Maybe their circumstances are they can't give.
Yeah.
There's always that. But hopefully, if people can't give, they'll pray, and they will take part in that way. I've not heard any negative feedback, so it's not like anybody is like adamantly opposed to it. But I usually don't. I mean, I hear indirect negative feedback.
Yeah.
So
Well, I would just say if you're one of those people that are doing indirect negative feedback, like come talk to the staff.
I've
Come
never
talk to the building
understood
division.
that, and I know it happens all the time. I just don't understand it. If
Yeah.
you got something to say it. If you've got a question, ask it.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Get the clarification
and
that you need.
it's interesting too, because sometimes I'll hear people asking about things, and I'm like, a very simple phone call would fix that.
Right.
Yeah.
Or we make up stories in our head, and then if you do go ask, you find out, oh, this was easily solved by a simple little question. And
People are very apt to draw conclusions when it comes to anything dealing with money.
right.
And the thing is you can't. I mean, you don't know what those are. So you don't chase false conclusions.
Yeah.
And you don't try to anticipate what they could be. You try to communicate things to the best of your ability. But it's just interesting. And whenever you do something like that, all these things start to come out.
Yeah.
And which that's fine. I mean, it's all part of the process, but it's an interesting process. I don't know what.
I think some of it comes to submission to leadership and submission to the direction and the vision of the church. There's been a lot of people praying. Like, this is a collective effort. This is a collective vision. The executive board, the consistory, the staff, we've been praying, like, what direction do we go? And this building committee was formed, and this is, the direction that they have decided to go. And, like, whether you agree with it or not, like, we should support it. Right. And I've had this conversation with people that I've led in the past. Like, as a leader, when I make a decision, you may not agree with the decision, but we're a team here. So you need to support the decision. And so I would just encourage people, again, ask questions. If you don't understand it, ask questions and come talk to us. But, like, this is the direction collectively we've decided to go as a church. And, like, if you're going to actively work against that, like, that's not going to do you any good, and that's not going to do others. And it's like rowing against the rowers.
Yeah.
You're almost a hindrance or a nuisance more than anything. But anyway.
Well, and I would just say, too, that the whole process started because there was a need.
Yeah.
And so even going a little bit further back, right, that there's a need, and then you have to be like, okay, how are we going to address this need?
Yeah.
And so whatever way that looks like, however that rolls out in the end, but
Yep.
there's a need, and there's still a need. And
Absolutely.
so
Yep. And the committee and the teams have put their heads together, and
Right.
this is what they said. We've explored a bunch of different things, and this is what we feel like is the best thing going forward. Doesn't mean there's not some little changes that take place based on giving or availability or what architects can or can't do. But anyway, there's a collective vision moving forward. So get on board.
Yeah, I mean, it's, the best things that God has planned require faith
and
And-
sacrifice.
and
Right.
sacrifice.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you do something like this, you're on the precipice of, part of what's difficult is that, and you communicate this, but I don't think people realize the process that precedes all this. You pray about it. The leadership discerns, and they go through a whole process. And by the time it's even mentioned to the congregation, it's been through. This is where we really feel like God has brought us.
Yep.
And so then people are invited to be a part of that. And, it's a little bit like when we build our worship center. It's the same thing. It's
Right.
like, this is exciting. It's fun to be a part of. It's just thrilling.
Yeah.
To see people that come and
What an exciting place to be in, right? Our congregation has grown to the point where like we can't do 5-6 services on a Sunday like without Steve like keeling over and dying. So like
man, I
we
can
need
barely
a bigger
do
space
two anymore. And I was thinking, so, and I told this story. So on Saturday, I did a funeral for my buddy. And one of my stories, the first time I met him, he was on my baseball team, and he showed up wearing cowboy boots to play baseball. So I decided I'm going to wear my cowboy boots for
To
his
baseball.
funeral.
Oh,
Yeah.
for his funeral.
For his funeral. And so, I used to do 4 services wearing cowboy boots. And
Yeah.
the reason why I stopped wearing my cowboy boots is because on Sunday afternoons, the drive back home, there was something about during that drive, my back would tighten up like a banjo string. And I would literally get home and I couldn't even hardly get out of my car.
Can't move.
I mean that was,
Yeah.
so it takes its toll on you.
Yeah.
And there's no doubt. I mean, I wouldn't have it any other way. But that's what.
Yeah.
So I started wearing more comfortable shoes.
But how exciting is it, that we grew out of our space, and now here we are again, growing out of our space, with the youth program and with, people being able to meet and have fellowship after the services, and so anyway, it's exciting, and so I don't know.
Absolutely. And
See what God does.
there's no doubt. I mean, you have. So you probably have. So yeah, I mean, I could break down the numbers. I'm not a big numbers guy, but sometimes when you get to places like this, you start to break down the numbers, and it's like anything else. Whatever it is, it could be more. I mean, it really could be more. If you break down average attendance, and you break down, kind of average, if everybody were to tithe, right? Where would we be at financially, and all those things? I don't dwell on that stuff because it is what it is. But I don't think that people understand collectively what they can do together.
Yeah.
It's kind of neat when you do something like this, you start to see, even though you don't get 100% participation, but still, even collectively, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's, I don't know, I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited to share the number. I should do it right now. I'm not gonna, but I should.
Come tonight.
Come tonight, find out.
That's right.
Yeah. So
Anyway.
it's a good number, but it's not as high as it could be.
Right.
But it's a good number.
Yep.
So we'll take what is.
Right.
And we're excited about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Praise God.
It's good.
Yeah.
What else you got there, Marcy?
About the building project?
Yeah, you got questions? You got questions there? And
Well, I did bring the questions that we had.
Have we covered any of these
From
in the past
the-
podcast?
Well, we covered all of these on the podcast with Rod.
Oh, did we?
So yes,
Okay.
so we did a podcast with Rod, who was the leader of the Building Vision team,
Mm-hmm.
and we actually went through all of these questions with him.
I will share an update.
Yes,
Since
share
we
an
last
update.
talked about this, middle school youth is starting to explode.
Yeah, it is
now, too.
exploding. Oh
I
my!
mean, we literally have. So just so you know, on youth night, if you count volunteers, middle school, high school, we're knocking. We're going past 200.
Yeah, it is easily right around 200.
Yeah.
Between middle school, high school,
That's
and
how
all
many
the
kids we're
leaders.
feeding.
We're feeding right around or over 200 people.
Yeah.
Every single Wednesday
Every
night.
Wednesday.
Yep. So
that's pretty
a
exciting.
lot.
Praise God for the people
Praise
that
God.
serve.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah.
man, middle school youth, not my gifting. But
Oh, Aaron, you
praise
just
God
say that
for
now.
Julie and her team. Like, they have amazing leaders. Like, I'm so thankful for them. And even like Addie will come home. She's our 8th grader, and she will come home and just chat about youth group and, you know, all that they talked about. And there's just a lot of good things. And even kids showing up where I'll drop her off and be like, oh, so-and-so's here. That's awesome.
Right.
Like, they need to be here. So
Well, you know, the other thing is too is, you know, youth is producing missionaries. We
Yeah.
have youth that are going to college right now that want to go into ministry. We have all of these things that, you know, so it's not just that the youth are coming and learning about Jesus.
Right.
It's that they're surrendering their lives to Christ, and as they enter into the world, they're
They're building
being
their life
called-
on it.
They're being called by
Yeah.
the Spirit into places of service,
yeah.
and they're willing to go,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really exciting.
Yeah.
It's really exciting. I'm pretty thrilled by it, and you know, I think that when you see the youth, they're not yet in that place where the responsibilities of life have hindered their movement. They're just kind of footloose and fancy free, and like, you know, if God calls me across the world, I'll go.
That's right.
Yeah. That's
Won't
good.
even hesitate. It's exciting. But then, of course, you know, the last podcast we see a family that gets called across the world, and they still go. So
Yeah.
these things are pretty cool, but they are a byproduct of movement within a church. So if you think about when all the pistons are firing in a church, you're not only building people up within, but to some degree, you're sending people out
Absolutely. Yeah.
to go into,
definitely
to be
sending them
God's
out.
witnesses throughout the world, and, you know, to help make disciples. And so that's exciting.
Right. Well, and I think too, it helps you see your own place where God has planted you as a mission field, right? So your workplace, your people who
Neighborhood.
you encounter, your neighborhood,
Yep.
like that is also a mission field. And so it doesn't necessarily even have to be that it's halfway around the world. You start to see it differently right where you're at.
Right. It could be anywhere. And that's an element of youth too, is they're all encouraged to invite their friends and to witness to their friends. They always have a Bible verse that they're called on to memorize, and they get special prizes if they can recite their verse.
Lots of candy,
Yeah.
a little extra chocolate if you know your verse.
My daughter will be practicing the verse as we pull up to the.
It's all right.
I need
There's
my
nothing
piece of
wrong with
candy.
that.
I need my
Nothing
piece of
wrong with
candy.
that.
Now you should ask the kids that verse like 2 days.
Yeah, that's right.
Ask them on a Friday what the
I'll
verse
give you
was
2
on
pieces of
Wednesday.
candy.
I
if
tell you
remember
what,
it on Friday.
Their little minds are like sponges.
They
man. They can
They are.
memorize things that I can't.
Yeah.
They're amazing.
I've reached the age where it's not that you don't retain things; it's just that you start losing. I'd be happy to retain at this point.
All right. Right. Well,
good.
what else you got for you guys? Want to discuss anything else? I mean, it's been a while since we've all been together. A couple months.
Yeah. We had tech this weekend as we're
Ooh,
talking
talk about that.
youth
I saw- I
and
ran into
just
Jody this
everything
morning.
that's. Oh, good.
I said to her, "Are you finally waking up
Yeah. Right.
from your post-tech rest?"
Yep. Yeah. So
She
tech
was all
is-
excited.
Oh, I'm sure.
She said something to the effect of, "I ought to just move to Newton."
Well, maybe she should.
Yeah.
So well, maybe you should.
That's right. That's right.
She said that so she and Ryan are going to go tour the conference center.
Oh, good.
To look at
Good.
maybe having tech in Newton.
No, that'd be great. Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
So-
There's enough
yeah.
kids, like it makes sense to have one here.
By the
Yeah.
way, not to go back to the building, but slight segue, we can't have tech.
Yeah,
here.
we can't.
Right.
We don't have the
the
facilities.
facility for it at
Right.
all. No. We could have a facility for it, but we don't. The setup that we have right now is not conducive
so they went. So
to a
they
tech
went
weekend.
to Linville Friends Church.
We did. Yep. It was at Linville Friends this week. And I will just tell you that I think there were at least 4 kids gave their lives to Christ, and there was 1 rededication, and everybody else was moved and blessed by it. And I mean, it's just amazing. So Tech is Teens Encounter Christ, and it's a weekend that really walks them through the gospel. And so Friday is all about sin and repentance, and it kind of lands in that place.
Do you
and
take the
then-
Romans road?
not exactly, but yes.
But
So
close. Yeah, it's
yes,
still all the
it's
gospel.
that gospel process. And so, but it just, and it's all covered in prayer. Like there's a team that's praying literally all weekend, and that's their job. Like they come to serve Jesus by praying all weekend for these kids who are going through. And God just uses it. Like it's just amazing. And so when you see kids surrendering their lives to Jesus and coming to know him in that way, like it's just awesome.
And,
It's
and you
just-
get kids
it's
that,
so awesome.
that come in with walls up
Absolutely.
in this place where they don't want anything to do with it, and they
Yep.
leave by that weekend like literally a new creation for those
Right.
that
Absolutely.
serve their life. And then they're back the following time.
and then they can
to
come back and
serve.
work.
Yeah,
Yep.
and they're working
If
it.
you've been
One-
through,
one
then you
thing
can
I
come
would
back
say-
and work.
One thing I would say is that it's not hard sell evangelism, right? Which, I mean, it's invitational evangelism.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
share the gospel, but then you
Yep.
invite people to respond.
Exactly. Yep.
That is, if you were going to tell me what is the formula, that's the formula. You share
Yeah.
the gospel, and then you invite people to respond.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
if they don't, they don't. If they do, great.
Right. And response looks different for everybody.
It does.
Because everybody's at a different stage.
Yeah, that was another thing Jody said to me. She goes, because I said, well, I heard you had some conversions and you had people surrendering their life to Jesus. Says, yeah. And other than that, we just planted a lot of seeds. It's like, yeah, and who knows when God will make those grow.
Right.
You're right. It's a great process. But sometimes there are things where it's hard sell evangelism.
Right.
Or it's like, we're not going anywhere.
Right. No, it's not that at
You all
all.
need to stand up
come to
right
the
now and
cross.
receive Jesus.
Yeah, no, it's not that at all.
Yeah.
No.
How'd
no.
your poster board presentation go?
You know what? I changed it. So there was
On the fly, like in the moment?
No, it was so I gave the talk on Saturday morning, and Friday night I just spent some time in prayer and praying through it, like through the message. And instead of I was going to use like sticky notes on a poster board as a visual, and I know. And
Sticky
instead
notes and
of
poster
I know you're
board.
shocked.
That's
You're
Marcy's love
shocked.
language.
And calendars.
So instead of
Anyway.
doing that, though, I actually on Friday night I came and I stopped here at the church about 11:30 at night, and Alicia has like kid bricks downstairs
Oh,
that
yeah.
are like
Yeah.
the cardboard
Yeah.
bricks. They look like bricks. So I grabbed a whole bunch of those and I used those as the illustration instead. So it's the idea we lay our
you ever-
stuff at the cross.
Have you ever
So-
come home and Todd greeted you at home with a poster board with sticky notes professing his love for you?
No.
Posted all over it. You would love that.
Do you
though,
know
wouldn't
what's
you?
funny?
You'd
That's
turn
like
to
the
Todd and you'd be like,
promposals now.
"Oh, you're speaking my love
Gets
language.
me. After all these years, he finally gets me.
You finally get me. Are you listening, Todd? So,
If I
He's
did that,
He's rolling his eyes
he
right
is
now.
rolling his eyes. He's like, I'm not going to do that.
Right.
If me telling her I love her isn't enough for her.
That's right. That's right. It
So
was
funny.
good. It was good.
But that's just kind of.
Well, thanks for volunteering. I know it's a long weekend, and
It is, but it's worth it.
number of youth
It's so
went
worth it.
and
Yeah, we had
gave
a lot
talk
of youth
and
that were working. We had a lot of youth go through. We had youth who gave a lot of the talks.
Yeah.
So the majority of the talks are all given by the youth, and it's just powerful. God just really uses it in
Yeah.
powerful ways. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was a great
Someday.
weekend.
And then, the
Yeah, we'd love to be able to
volunteers-
host it.
Someday
Volunteers.
we'll host. Someday.
So
Anyway.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have a facility where we could have that here.
it would
We
be
could
really
have kids
awesome.
giving their life to Jesus other than Wednesdays, and we'd have a tech weekend. It's be pretty cool.
Yeah, it would be
Yep.
So
for sure. So
Cool.
yeah, so that was a great weekend.
Yeah. What else has God been doing in your life lately?
Well, that's definitely been the most like, whoo, right there,
You got
right
a son
now.
back home right now.
Yes, yeah. So Nathan's back
came
from
up and
college.
visited everybody
Yep.
last night.
He
or yesterday.
did, yeah. He came up for lunch and
It's good to
had
see
lunch
him.
with everybody. So that was
Yep.
good. Yeah, he's home for Thanksgiving break and
Typical
That's
college kid.
Yep. How's it going? Good.
Good. I got to bed late last night playing video games.
Yep. Like really? I was out on the couch. by
Sounds like
10.
me when I was his age. Yeah.
Yep.
as-
So
if you could get anything from between bites of food,
right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Grocery bill goes
go
up
up
for the
this
week.
month. Yeah.
It's all right.
Good thing is you have 2 meals at your
It's true.
family's
Thanksgiving
house.
is definitely a big meal. So
Take some leftovers home.
for sure. Yep.
my son Logan spoke at Alpha.
He did.
Yeah, how'd that go? What
and
was
that
his
was
topic?
the wrap up for
The
Alpha.
church. Why the church?
Why the church?
Yeah.
It's interesting to hear your kid talk, and you know, so this whole thing, you don't force anybody to anything, you invite them. I take that approach to even to my kids. The only thing we force them to do is go to church.
Yeah.
And the reason why, because number one, we're at church,
Right.
and families should be together on
Right.
Sunday, the Lord's Day, and nothing takes priority. Nothing takes priority over church.
Yep.
And it was interesting to hear him
Sports don't take priority over church?
No.
Fishing?
And it's not because we worship church. We worship at church.
Right.
And so, church
Together.
is the gathering of believers. And what was great was Logan talked about his family at church. And the reason why he comes back here and he drives 40 minutes to come to church every Sunday is because he has family here. That's not us. We're his family. But it was just great to hear my son say that.
Yeah.
But he talked about how when he was a kid, he'd be here all day.
Yep.
And he'd be here for 6 hours. And he talked about how before we even went into ministry, they'd be at church all day. Because we did the 9:00 children's ministry, and then we did the 11:00 family service. We went, we take, and
Served and then went to
Served.
church.
served all morning long. I ran sound, and so I'd be there all morning. But at the 11:00 we went to church as a family. We sat together, which was really important. We all did that even before I knew I was going to go into ministry. It was just a part of our life.
Yeah.
I loved it. I mean, it's always interesting when you're always, it's always a fascinating thing when you're trying. I mean, for a lot of people, it just comes natural. They just love worship. They love being here on Sundays. They love the people of God. And there's just so many are like, meh. And I don't understand it, but whatever. It's that way everywhere. You always have a large contingent of people that if anything else comes up, they're there. And for me, there's very little that would stop me
Yeah.
from being with people of God on Sunday. So I just, it's just what the Spirit calls me to do, and so that's what I do. But
Well, Trish and I scheduled, we're getting a vacation here soon, and we literally scheduled to leave after church on Sunday because we didn't want to miss. Like, we love being here.
yeah,
And we scheduled it so we're back on Saturday so we can be at church again on Sunday just because.
I will say
love
too,
being
though, that along those lines, one of my favorite things about being on vacation is going to churches in other communities.
I think that's
So,
important.
If we're on vacation and it falls over a Sunday, we will go to a church in the community that we're in.
Worship
And
with other
I
believers.
love that.
I do too.
I think that for our kids, it gives you the experience of walking in somewhere that's new and like, what is this going to be like? And how do I navigate this? And then, but also then when you're in worship and the Bible teaching, that it's just this bigger picture of the body of believers. It's like, that your people are worshiping here at the Way in Newton, but then you see these churches all over that are worshiping also.
Yeah.
And it's just awesome to get to be a part of that.
It's kind of cool. It's kind of cool when you're looking ahead and you're picking your church. It's amazing how it doesn't take long to figure out. Well, that's a church we would go to.
Yeah.
You can tell a lot by the website.
You can.
I'm just gonna say
the
that.
website and Facebook.
You
and
can tell a lot by the
maybe listen
website.
to 5-10
this is
minutes
going to
of a
be a good
message.
fit, or I don't know.
Yeah. No, it is amazing.
It is.
We went to a church in Branson
Yeah.
that was a closed down amusement park.
That's
That
interesting.
the church bought, and like they have this whole big sprawling campus across
Yeah.
this amusement park. It was pretty cool.
That's cool.
Yeah.
But it's just, it's just neat to be a part of such things. And so it was neat for Logan, for my son, my 28-year-old son, so he talked about how when he went to college, so he had a choice to make. He could go to church or he could not go to church. And he chose to go. And it was the best decision he ever made.
Yeah.
Because not only did he meet friends that are still his friends to this day, great friends, but eventually he met his wife.
Yeah.
And just
Look how God provided.
oh yeah, I met this great young lady that he married, and now they have a baby, and life's going good for them. But it's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool, and you get to a point where you can't imagine not having that. So the salvational piece is a great thing, and that's foremost and primary because that's eternity. But in the meanwhile, you get these blessings
Yeah.
from God, and one of which is the fellowship of believers.
Yeah.
And so, that's what you wish for everybody. You wish that for everyone. And it's just kind of interesting how
Well, even the things that blossom off that too, like we had small group the other night, and just the deep, meaningful conversation that came out. Like our hosts, Nikki and Ben Lampy, like Nikki printed out like just these thought-provoking questions, and you had to draw a question from the jar, and it was just amazing to see the conversation and even like the prayer requests. And like, I've hung out with a lot of different people. I've hung out around a lot of different crowds as friends, but they were so shallow in the relationship, and you really weren't doing life with people. It was, I don't know, feeble and fickle, and just it was shallow, like I said. And like to have these relationships with people at the church, and making like Bigger Church Small in our small group, and having friends that we meet with, like it's intimate and it's more fulfilling than groups of people that I hang out with outside of the church body. And like, yeah, I'm so thankful
I think
for
depth
that.
is a good word. I think that
Yeah.
I think that there's something that you long. I suppose it's similar to when my wife would be home all day with the kids, and I'd come home and she'd be like, "I need adult conversation."
You're like, all I want to do is veg.
I need to talk to an adult.
Yeah.
And and I've done nothing but that all day, and I'm like, the last thing I want to do is talk anymore. But you don't understand. But I think you crave deeper and more meaningful conversations about things that are of greater meaning.
Well, it's just this gift that God gives us through these people, right? And even the encouragement you receive from them, but the prayer support too. Like, we have a text chain where we just wrote down prayer requests in that small group, and people are actively praying for one another, and it's just, it means a lot.
People really care.
They do. Yeah.
They're willing to inconvenience themselves to bless you because they care.
Yeah.
Things like drive, 40 minutes out of their way to see if you're in the hospital, or bring you a meal, or whatever it is that they do. That's the kind of stuff that does not happen in the world. It happens in the church,
Right.
Right.
and that's and ultimately that's kind of what people are longing for. I had to laugh. I saw a comedian, and it's funny, but it's not funny. So there was like this sociologist or psychologist that came out and said something about, because of politics, for your own mental health, maybe you need to isolate this Thanksgiving and not go be with family. And this comedian says, yeah, that's great advice. Maybe you should drink alcohol and do drugs while you're at it. And it's like, it's just bad advice. Isolation never is a good idea.
Right.
Right.
It's never a good idea. We are designed to be in community.
Right.
Yeah.
And this idea of detach yourself, isolate, it does not work out well.
No, it doesn't.
And I think that for a lot of people, that's a natural inclination is to withdraw. But
Well, because that's what's comfortable,
That's
right?
what's-
I mean, going back to getting out of your comfort zone, that's what's comfortable is to, well, clearly it's them, so I'm going to isolate and withdraw. And it's like,
Well-
no, actually, what you should be doing is going, engaging in it, and
it's
Be
weird
a light.
that it's weird
Yeah,
that
be
it's
a light
comfortable, but
and-
it's also destructive.
right, it is.
So it's like
Right.
we're more comfortable in destructive behavior than we are in positive.
Right. What's
Yeah.
going to get you through.
Behavior.
Yeah.
So here's a challenge for you for this Thanksgiving holiday coming up. I'm sure we all have family that may get under our skin or annoy us, or we don't necessarily want to be around them. But my encouragement would be, and this comes from my devotion today. I think it was 1 Peter 5:8 or something like that, where he talks about love and loving others, and like being put in this place where even though people can annoy you or get under your skin, we are called to love them and to display Christ's love and to be a light. And so, how can you pray for those people that may get under your skin and be a light to them during this holiday season? So that can be hard to do sometimes.
Yeah. Well, you're not going to be able to do it if you don't go show up, right?
That's right.
So
That's right.
don't isolate. Step
Right.
number 1.
There we go.
Yeah, and I always tell people that the key too is just not to is to kind of control your expectations. You know, that's what frustrates you and gets you angry is when somebody acts in a way that you don't want them to. But it's like, what? Why are you? You know, half the time when something happens, you walk away and you reflect on it. Because why am I surprised
Yeah.
that the person did that? Because that's what they always do.
Yeah.
So rather than react, just go in knowing, that's who they are. That's what they do, and I'm going to love them anyway.
Yeah.
I'm just not going to react to it.
Yeah.
And then hopefully it's easier said than done.
Yeah.
But hopefully you just,
And if you go into it thinking, you don't have any of those people, you probably are that person.
Maybe it's you.
nobody in the family annoys me.
Yeah, that's because you're annoying everybody else.
You're the one that annoys people. That's pretty funny. But I also think that all of that is by design. Because in this, so same thing about marriage, same thing about church, same thing about family. You're meant to learn. So if salvation is a gift that God gives us, if we have like one job, right now, what would that be? And you can say, well, it's to be a witness, but let's go deeper. We have to learn how to love righteously, right? So, if I did all of these other things, but I didn't love, then I'm worse than a banging gong or a clanging cymbal, right? If I had all the fruits of the Spirit, but I didn't have love. 1 Corinthians 13. So how do you learn how to love? You learn how to love by loving people that are difficult, that are different than you.
Yeah.
And because a portion of what you need to do to love them is to let a portion of yourself go.
Right.
It's like, I'm just not going to.
And you have to choose to love them.
Right.
Right. It's
Yeah.
not like, well, I just don't. I'm incapable. No, you are capable of loving. You
can
have
love
to
them.
choose
Right.
to
You
do
have
that.
to choose to do it. And that means that you have to overlook some things and you have to let go of some things.
Offer grace, right? Forgiveness.
If you know what, if they are trying to get you to do something that you know very clearly is something God does not want you to do, then fine. Then draw a hard line and say,
Right.
I'm not. No.
Right.
And you need to stop now, or else this conversation is over.
Yeah. It's like you said too. Loving is not agreeing,
Right.
right? It doesn't mean
we're
you have to
this-
agree with everything.
And if this
Right.
whole thing of you don't love me unless you affirm me, it's like, no.
Right.
Yeah.
I can love you and think you're a numbskull simultaneously. I won't, because I love you, I won't tell you I think you're a numbskull. But deep down inside, I'd be like, this person's full of it.
yeah.
But I love him anyway.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's okay. You can do that. And I think that's an important thing to remember. I mean, I think that way with my staff all the time.
I'm sure you do.
No, it's- I think my
Wait.
staff-
When have
my
you
staff-
ever
comes out.
My
filtered
staff
that
feels
you
that
don't
way
think
about
we're a
me. It's like, we
numbskull?
love Steve. We don't agree with half what he said. We love-
With those closest to you, you just go ahead and say what you're thinking
That's true.
anyway. So you're
true.
a pretty open book.
I am a pretty open book. Yeah.
Yeah.
No poker face.
So it's kind of funny because a couple weeks ago I talked about how there's a difference. There's a difference when there's a naked man in the middle of the street barking at the moon,
Right.
Or if they're in my living room,
Yeah.
right?
I think that showed up in one of your children's notes.
yes,
church.
it did.
Naked man in my living
Like,
room.
wait,
And
what?
and the
What
other
is
kid's
this?
like, what?
I don't.
What are you talking about? Okay.
And I don't know that you told that at the 11 o'clock service. So when we talked about that showing up in one of your kids' notes, I was like, what are we
Well,
talking about?
It's funny because I would classify
is this?
classify my staff as my living room. And there have been a couple times where we had a naked man barking at the moon. in
Like,
our
wait,
living room.
what's going on
And
right
we
now?
kind of had to say, okay, that's not going to happen anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
But you got to take responsibility for the area that God puts under your realm of responsibility.
Yep.
For sure.
For
Yep.
sure.
It's
Right on.
good.
They had long time ago. It's a great book. It's called The Stages of Man, and it talked about how it's the apprentice, warrior, king, sage progression of a man. And so a man begins out life and he's an apprentice, which means that he's learning how to live life and how to do all these things. And then he transitions into a warrior stage, which everything's a battle, but you're driven by passion. You're contending for things. You just need to make sure that you're a good warrior, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Fighting for
the
things
right things.
and all
Yeah.
those things. Well, anyway, eventually you get to a point in life where you're now in the king stage, where you have responsibility, and you have the ability to bless people and to bestow good things to the people in your realm of responsibility, because maybe you're a supervisor, maybe you're just in maybe you're a father,
Yeah.
and you have kids, and you kind of have that power in your homes. And then kind of the final stage is the sage stage, where you now are advising kings. But it's just kind of interesting because, as you get to the sage stage, the idea is you're accumulating wisdom, right? And you're learning. You're learning how to do things and what to do and what not to do. And wisdom is really about how you deal with people. I mean, it's not. I mean, everything else is knowledge, right? So, how many grains of sand are on a beach in Maui? That's not wisdom. That's knowledge.
Wisdom is kind of the application piece. Like, how does this apply
wisdom-
to real
Yeah,
relationships
it's
and
like,
real?
how do you deal with people? How do you deal with
situations.
situations? And how do you respond? And that's wisdom. And so, look at adversity as an opportunity to learn wisdom. And that's the way you got to look at it. You don't
Just James
avoid
1,
it.
right?
Yeah, you don't
consider it a great opportunity.
Yeah, you don't
have
run
trials.
from it. You don't retreat from it. You just, you don't curse it. You just like, you know what?
You go through it.
I'm going to go through it and I'm going to learn something.
The buffalo
Right.
analogy.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yep.
So,
Right on.
so that's the way. So actually, what's crazy is those people that drive you the nuttiest can also simultaneously help you the most.
Right. Yep.
By design.
Refining
By
fire.
design.
I heard.
Right.
I remember one time they said that never ever dismiss your critics. You can't let your critics determine your entire line of thinking, but you're gonna learn more from your critics than you learn from your fans, because there's always a little bit of truth to what critics say. So you have to pick that out and say, okay, you know what? I'm going to work on that. You're right. But you can't let them devastate you emotionally, because that's what critics will do. They're not trying to be positive. They're trying to be negative,
Right.
but you can take positive from it. And that's why, the best lesson you can learn in life is how to learn and gain wisdom through adversity and experiences.
Learn to
And-
sift through it.
And and wisdom should be driven by love. Because that's kind of the key to wisdom. But Anyway,
There we go. The more you know.
the more you know. Yeah. Rooted in Scripture,
Yep.
but encased in love. But anyway,
There we go.
it's good stuff.
Good.
So
Yeah. So, yeah, we'll probably bring this to a close, but
Yeah.
like, just open up that invitation again to come tonight and
7:00.
hear from Steve, a building campaign update,
Announcement.
Cute little announcements.
and listen to a panel of great people.
Yep.
Do we want to say who's on the panel, or do we want to say that's a surprise as well?
I don't care. You can tell people who's on the panel.
Well, I think if we tell people who's on the panel, more people are likely to come because they're so awesome.
They are.
So we have some lady that's been here for a while named Vicky. I don't know if you know her or not.
Some cute,
Yeah.
cute gal that
It is Steve's wife, so we're gonna
Just in case you
just to
didn't know.
clarify, Vicky Hirma, she's gonna be on stage with us. Jeff Guthrie is gonna be on stage with us. Nick Cummins, Al Law, and Michaela Miller.
Yeah.
So
Good lineup.
wide range of just people and how they've served over the years in the church and what God's done in their lives. So I'm excited to hear from them.
Yeah, I think that there will be something that everybody can connect with.
Yes.
Yeah.
At least, you know.
Yes.
At some point.
Yeah, I
for
think
sure.
I think we have represented just almost every personality
Yeah.
that we can. A lot of different experiences unique to each person that maybe would be similar to what somebody else is going through. So there's just a lot of there's just a lot of diversity there. So that'll be good.
It will be good.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, come join us. It'll be good.
Aaron's
Worship's will be
hosting.
good. I'll
It's
be
gonna be great.
hosting. Yep. So, anyway, you guys got anything else to add?
I don't think so.
I think we covered it.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
should I pray us out and we'll call it good?
Oh,
Oh.
you should talk about your Advent devotionals.
Oh, yeah.
We should talk about that.
Yeah, let's do that. So the number of the church staff have volunteered to put together some video
Volunteered?
devotionals.
Voluntold. Let's be honest. Thanks,
Hey,
Aaron.
I reached out and asked, and a number of people did volunteer, but there were several I had to be like, "Hey, are you doing this or not?" And yes,
You're
yes,
gonna
I'm-
do this, Aaron says.
It's all right. You got to do what you got to do. That's fine. I was one of those people that
Hey, man, people want to hear from the pastor.
I know because
Yeah.
they never hear from me.
Yeah.
No, I'm happy to do it. It's a great idea.
It is.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be a
Yes.
part of it. It's like everything else, though, that I just didn't know if you wanted me or not. But
Yeah.
now I-
So
tell us
now you
about
know.
it.
So yeah, so through Advent, typically we had given out, the little booklets where you could just work your way through some devotionals every day of Advent. But this year we decided, let's do some videos. And so the thought is we have scripture. We took a series of scriptures from Lifeway, and we're using those scriptures in that order. And each day, December 1st through December 25th, someone is going to be reading the devotional or the scripture and then interjecting some testimony and teaching into that. And, they're going to end with some thought-provoking questions. And the idea is, this is an opportunity for you to sit down as a family, whether it's at the dinner table, which if it's like my family, it can be hard to get them to focus at times at the dinner table. And, but it could be driving in a car, right? Pull up the devotional, listening to it, and then discuss the questions. And so the thought is as we go through Advent, you can sit down as a family and connect, because we'll give you questions to discuss. And so hopefully it'll be some family bonding time, but also an opportunity for people to grow closer in a relationship with Jesus. And yeah, I'm excited for it because we've got just a good wide variety of people that are going to be doing the videos.
That's gonna be great.
So,
yeah.
and Jen, as always, is
She's
the
amazing.
master of media and is
Thank you,
going to
Jen.
be posting these in a couple different formats, like on the website, the app, or put out on our Facebook page every day. So, and I think I recorded an intro video, so I think we'll play that at the December 1st service, just giving a little more information. So, anyway,
I recorded mine this morning.
good job. How many
Thank
more do you
you.
have left?
I think I have 2 more. I think I'll have
Yeah.
to go back and look at the list. I was
Right
just
on.
focused on the first one, so I will not meet the given deadline, but it's okay.
Don't follow Marcy's example.
be
When's
fine.
the given deadline?
November 30. That's Saturday. See, he's not going to meet the deadline either. It'll be fine. It'll get done.
You're doubting him.
Maybe he
It
will.
sounds like a challenge. I
I
bet.
won't make it.
Oh boy.
It'll be good.
Anyway,
It'll happen. It'll all roll out. I recorded the first one, so see, we're good to go.
good job.
That's right.
I'm going to record mine while I'm driving.
That'd be fun. I think that'd be great. I love it. You should. You
That'd be an
should.
interesting video.
Road rage? Any
All
road rage?
about following Jesus, right? You can put
Following
your
Jesus.
phone here. It's about following
Patience. It's
Jesus.
about patience.
We
There
should
you
not
are.
text and drive, but we can record and read devotionals.
Well,
while we
all
drive.
you're doing is talking. So you're talking and it's just recording you. I think it totally works.
What kind of a news story would that be? Pastor dies
Pastor
while
doing
trying to
an
record
Advent
devotional
devotional, runs.
while driving.
Runs into a deer.
To meet unreasonable deadlines.
Sergeant for Jasper County has to arrest his own pastor for reckless driving.
Oh, it's
Anyway,
pretty good.
it's gonna be exciting. It's gonna be good.
Yeah. Where can we find the devotionals? Did you tell us that
I
already?
did. Did you listen to what I just said?
I
1
did,
minute
but I
ago?
just didn't remember that detail.
This is a story of my life. Wait, there's a deadline for these videos? When do we have to?
I
Did you
did
read my
ask
email?
that this
No, I didn't
morning.
read your email.
You know what?
Oh my
I read
gosh.
the whole rest of the email except the deadline.
You
Found that
listened
out
to this
morning.
entire podcast and everything we said, except for what I just said about website, app,
Oh,
and
there
Facebook.
you go. People just needed to hear it again. They just needed to hear it again. You can
Yeah,
find it all
thank you
kinds of
for that.
different places. That's right. Just helping you out.
Yeah.
I heard it. I heard you.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks.
I was listening. That makes you feel better.
It does. All right. All right. Hey, come join us tonight. Yeah, and we'd love to see you. And even on Sunday, come join us. It's gonna be a good night
Advent
tonight.
begins Sunday too. We didn't
It
talk
does.
about
Yeah.
Advent,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Right
build
on.
up to Christmas.
That's right.
Ready or not? Here we go.
Reminder of if you want to help decorate too.
Oh, yeah.
We'll be decorating
Tell us
Friday.
when that is. Friday?
Yeah, I don't know what time. I'll be here.
10?
Sometime Friday.
I'm getting 10 from
10-ish.
Jen.
10.
10 on
10-ish.
Friday?
10-ish, kind
Yes.
of podcast.
Yes.
Starts
Thumbs
at
up.
10-ish.
Come
10
on
on
out.
Friday.
Yep.
Doors will be unlocked. Come on into the worship center and hang out and
That's right. Vicky will give you a job.
yep.
Decorate.
She will.
It's good.
And I would say that, so I come in and I do sermon prep and Vicky decorates.
Mm-hmm.
And, if she doesn't have a lot of help, then I help her decorate. So
Come help
I'm
Steve sermon
I'm
prep.
pleading number one for my wife, and I'm also pleading for me. Please come out and help. We're not getting any younger.
Yeah.
There was a time
No cowboy
when
boots.
Vicky and I could decorate the whole church in one day.
And you
Does
can
there
sermon
ever
prep.
reach a point during decorations where you're just like, I am done. I've had it. I can't do
It does, but that's usually only about 2/3 of the way through.
We gotta keep going.
push through.
He can't leave
what are you
Vicky
gonna
just
do?
out there hanging on her
Yeah.
own. Gotta keep
What are you gonna
going.
do?
Yeah.
That's right.
I can't.
That's why he's pleading for help.
I can't abandon my
Come
sweetie.
help.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, the thing is some help requires big ladders and
Yeah.
trees and
Tall trees.
tall
Worship
trees.
center stage trees.
Yeah.
That's right.
Right on. Well, it always looks beautiful. So you can
does.
have a part in making the worship